Well, we've already seen more migrants crossing the channel to get here than in the whole of last year. And when you couple that with a government that promised to get tough on immigration, then you see the type of messaging coming from the Home Office that we've seen today. Hints at bringing in the Royal Navy, finger blaming at France to control the problem their end, and the return of that Brexit phrase, take back control of our borders. But when you put the rhetoric aside, what's at the heart of this is human lives. And one thing that both sides can agree on is that crossing the channel in a flimsy dinghy is not the solution. Under the blazing sun on the Kent coast, imagine a starker contrast than this. As Dover Beach fills with those seeking refuge from one of the hottest days of the year in the sea, just a few miles away, migrants precariously hold on to the side of an overloaded dinghy, desperate not to fall in. Yesterday, at least 235 people entered the UK in a small boat like this, a new single-day record. Amid suggestions today that the government is thinking of sending the Royal Navy to tackle the migrant crisis, the Home Secretary took to Twitter, saying the number of illegal small boat crossings is appalling and unacceptably high. In another tweet, she added, "I know that when the British people say they want to take back control of our borders, this is exactly what they mean."
I think what we're hearing at the moment is quite a lot of sabre rattling, and she's saying that things that she thinks people want to hear. But this situation, this issue isn't going to go away. Everything that's been tried so far hasn't worked. You know, we've tried spending a lot of money making the port at Calais more secure, we've tried putting more boats in the channel. None of it is working.
More migrants have already come to Britain to seek a better life this year than last. As to why, those working with them say the reasons are varied.
I think obviously we're seeing a spell of really good weather, and obviously if you're going to make a dangerous crossing, it's much better to do it when the weather's good. Anecdotally, we're hearing some evidence that traffickers are using Brexit as a means of encouraging people to go now because it's going to get so much more difficult. And of course, camps in Calais have been cleared, people have had food and water confiscated, and the situation for people there is desperate.
While talk of using the Royal Navy remains just that for now, those currently tasked with intercepting boats say they've never seen anything like this before.
I mean, I've seen large numbers arriving in lorries, 10, 20, 30, 40 plus, but this is just consistent. This is 15, 16, up to 40 in a vessel, and there's 15, 16, 17 vessels in a day. So this is huge numbers in this mode. And of course, you go and rescue one boat, and there's another one out there.
And on the suggestion of bringing in the Navy, the representative for those working in Border Force says he doesn't see how it would be any more of a deterrent.
They could safeguard life, but they won't be able to take them back to France because there's no agreement. They will just be doing the same job as everybody else, getting them on board, landing them. We will then have to process them.
Nobody disagrees that crossing the Channel, even on glorious days like this, is dangerous. But how they stop desperate people taking that risk provokes strong opinions. And while that's thrashed out far from the coast in which people arrive, the number of boats making the journey continues to grow.
Well, earlier I spoke to the local Conservative MP, Damien Collins, and I asked him what he thought of the idea of sending the Navy to tackle migrants crossing the Channel.
Well, having more vessels patrolling, be they Royal Naval ships or Border Force cutters, is good to have, but it doesn't solve the problem, which is that we can't patrol in French waters, no matter who's doing it. And once migrant vessels reach the British waters, then under maritime law, they have to be brought to the nearest safest port, which would be Dover. So it's good to have more observation at sea and more ships that can intervene if there's a problem. But having the Navy there doesn't mean we can suddenly intercept migrants in French territorial waters any more than we would let the French Navy conduct operations within ours. I mean, what we do really need actually is the governments to get together and agree joint operations that work across the Channel and which seek to return the migrants to France wherever they're found.
So why are the numbers up so sharply?
More people are trying. The conditions are very favourable, even though it's still an incredibly dangerous crossing across the world's busiest shipping lane. And the security at Calais port and at the Channel Tunnel is much better than it used to be. And therefore, it's much harder for migrants to get in that way, which they would have done in the past. There have also been fewer lorry movements. So trying to get in the back of a lorry to come in that way is not feasible either. It's much harder. So out of desperation, the migrants are increasingly trying the one route where they believe they can make it across. Now, we've invested with the French in more policing along the coastline to try and spot people before they get in the water. And on average, about half the people are stopped before they get in the water. But clearly, this isn't enough. And my concern will be if we have good summer conditions over the next few weeks, is we'll see more and more trying.
Right now, we can see the absolute mess in Lebanon, and that also draws our attention to the ongoing mess in Syria. I mean, a lot of these people are fleeing genuine war, persecution, and real danger.
What we want people to do, and indeed what the government's consistently investing in and encouraging people to do, is to go to the UN-run refugee centres nearer their region, nearer the places where they're fleeing persecution, where they can have their cases assessed there and be safely transported to the country where they will have refugee status. What we don't want people to do and create a false incentive for people to do is to put their lives in the hands of dangerous people traffickers to be trafficked across Europe in the hope of being smuggled into the UK in an overcrowded, unsafe craft where people have lost their lives trying, and in many ways it's miraculous more haven't died. And we want to shut this route down because it's bad for everyone concerned.
When Priti Patel says the figures are shameful, I mean, who does she mean? Who's shameful in this?
Well, the figures are shamefully high, and she's right in saying that. Now, the solution we put in place with the French authorities over the last few years was to say we would have better security at the port of the tunnel, more police patrolling on the coast, and it's clearly unacceptable, for my constituents and other people on the southeast coast to think that our borders are open, that anyone can get in a small boat, whoever they are, and make their way to the UK illegally. And having the Navy in the Channel is great, but it won't solve the problem unless they can patrol in French waters, and at the moment there's no agreement that they can.